Hello, everyone. I've been thinking about the teaching that we've been having at TOTS over the past past 4 weeks. And it's been, I think, from Acts 14. And it's the story of how Paul, the missionary, was visiting Lystra, which is a town in the sort of south part of what we would call Turkey today. And what we've been learning about is that Paul speaks to this non-Jewish audience about how God reveals himself not just through the Bible, but through the creation that he has made. And the passage that we've been looking at says God makes himself real to us through sending us rain, which it's raining at the moment as I look out the window, and allows our crops to grow, and also puts joy, real joy, in our hearts. And all these things show us God's kindness. So this is just a reflection on what we've been learning. I don't know if you've ever thought this before, but you and I might not have ever existed. We didn't decide to be born in, say, 1981 or 1987 or 1996, or in my case, 1956. We didn't choose our parents, our country of origin, or even our own names. And what we are is largely factors that we didn't create for ourselves. I mean, I was brought up on a farm for the first 4 years of my life, and I enjoyed the freedom of the countryside and many good things, I'm sure. I can't remember much about it, but I didn't contribute to that at all. It was all something that was given to me. And my life and your life is not really an autobiography that we write ourselves, as it were, pen in advance. Somebody else has written a lot of our story. The point being that so much of what we have is simply given to us, like the internet information that comes down our phone lines or fibre cable, or the water that flows through our taps. We're given so much freely. And Sarah and Liz have been teaching that God is the giver of so much of what we enjoy. Rain and sunshine, food, and even joy and happiness itself comes from God. And you could say that this givenness, if you like, if that's a word I can coin, is a testimony or an evidence that God exists. But not only that, that he is a faithful and good God. And that's what the Apostle Paul was saying to those that he was speaking to in Lystra. Of course, there's much suffering in the world, isn't there? Countries where there is war and famine, and perhaps you suffer yourself with pain or trouble in some way. But we can't get away from the fact that the world we live in is a bountiful and a wonderful world. The recent spacemen and women who were on the trip to the moon, Artemis 2, I think it was called, I guess as they were look back from their spacecraft to Earth at our beautiful blue planet from a distance, they would just look at it with wonder, wouldn't they? Like those early astronauts in the 60s did, were totally blown away by the wonder and the beauty of our planet. All part of God's givenness. Daily provision of food and clothes and life itself comes from a good God who formed the world and created us as well. Yes, even in this world that's marred by mankind's sin and folly and so full of trouble, there is so much to enjoy, so many of God's blessings. Fun in the park on a Saturday afternoon with your family. Staying up late to talk with an old friend. Having children, and for me, grandchildren, are a wonderful blessing. The unexpected kindness of a stranger. I experienced that this week, actually. Gazing at a beautiful picture in an art gallery, which I also did last week, or listening to your favourite music on Spotify. If God can fill this world, which is so broken and fallen, if he can fill this world with pleasures, what will it be like when all the sin and the sorrow is taken away? And I'm mindful of Sam Ganji talking about this in Lord of the Rings and saying, will everything sad become untrue? Yes, it will, because God is a bountiful God. I'm thinking about C.S. Lewis's comment about you can trace every sunbeam back to the sun. And he was using it as illustrations so you can trace every good gift back to the God who gave it to us. So let me close with some words from the Bible. It's the Old Testament book of Psalms, Psalm 16. And the psalmist says, "At your right hand, God, are pleasures forevermore." What a wonderful thing that is. At God's right hand, there are pleasures forevermore. And our prayer for you at Tots is that you would come to know this God through his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, who was also given for us. So that's my reflection on the teaching over the past 4 weeks. God is a bountiful and a wonderful giver. And that's the starting point for starting to get to know him and finding out what he's revealed in the Bible that we have to read in our own language.